Do you ever wonder who the Pete Carroll of JUCO and NAIA football is? Yes, just like Pete Carroll won at USC and the Seattle Seahawks, this guy has won at Glendale Community College and has even gone to the finals at Baker's College at the NAIA level. We are talking about legendary coach Mike Grossner, the current head coach at Bethany College, who has been so successful, is a great guest, and I can't wait for you guys to hear what he has to say. I'm Jacob Stotsky. I'm the host of the JUCO Pipeline Podcast, and let's get it. And I just want to admire your success. You won a JUCO national title at Glendale, I believe. You've had a lot of success at Bethany. This is your second run with them now, I believe. I think you coached them back in the day, and you're currently coaching there. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
I did. 1988, I coached here 1 year. That was my first job. And then took that Glendale job later on, 90s through 2000. Won that national title in 2000, left there, went to Western State for 3 years as an offensive coordinator, and then took the Baker head job from '04 to 18 was my last year there, and then went over to Europe and coached a little bit and ran a pub and brought the family over there for 3 years, and then Bethany came calling, so joined that
Wow.
here 2 years ago.
Where was the pub?
Leicester area, Loughborough.
Okay, awesome. And what
Yeah,
made you
so
decide to start your own pub? I mean, that's awesome.
well, the guy that owned three pubs was I played over there in the early '90s for 3 years, and he was a junior on our junior team, under 18 team, and then he now, later in life owned a few pubs on the football team that I coached, and so he put together a package for us to go over there and work business as well as coach.
That is so sick. So you've been everywhere. You've played and coached everywhere. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a good run.
So I gotta ask you, of all those places that you went to, where's your favorite food?
Oh, over there, mean, I love a euro. They make fantastic euros in England, believe it or not.
Hmm.
And then when we were in Italy, I was in Italy for 1 year, and the pizza, the personal pizzas, the thin crust, unbelievable.
Oh,
With a good carafe of wine, it was really good.
yeah, yeah. I had it one time, and it's they don't gain weight there. You could just
No,
crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy.
it's even in England, the food is so much healthier for you because there's not a lot of processed food, and so it's a lot of fresh stuff, and they don't put a lot of processed stuff. So it'll go bad quicker, but it's better for you.
Yeah, no, that like I said, you have an amazing story, and I honored. I feel like I'm coach. I feel like
Ah,
I'm interviewing the Michael Jordan or LeBron James of JUCO
yeah,
coaches here.
at the
So.
small level. Yeah.
So, knowing so are you in tune with the new junior college rule?
Yeah, I had a couple buddies at Vanderbilt. I haven't talked to him, but I was aware of his situation from a standpoint at New Mexico State because, he played for a Kansas coach that very successful guy that's uh, took over a New Mexico State program that wasn't very good for many years, and all of a sudden they were good. And Pavia was a big part of that as a quarterback. Then he made the move to Vanderbilt and had success there, and then came back and challenged the whole world in the monster of the NCAA and you name it. I give him credit for the can of worms he's opened. Now it's made life for us old school guys different. you know, I feel at the level I'm at right now, the NAI is probably the most pure level of football. Even then, and I would put Division III in that category as well, where guys are still coming to for the love of the game and a chance to get a really good degree and then be successful in whatever they do. And that you know, we have good players. There's some guys that'll get an NFL look, but for 98% of them, you recruit to your school academically and provide that avenue for them to still play ball and get a degree. And now, you know, I was a junior college coach, like you alluded to, for 10 years. I, you know, as I was playing in Europe, I was playing in the spring, summer, and then coming back late summer and coaching in
Wow.
the fall at Glendale Community College in Arizona. And Joe Kirsten gave me a great opportunity to really have year-round football. And so that's where I learned the game as a coach. And we were very successful through that tenure. And then I took over as a head coach in 97 through 2000. But back in the day, that's where the Division I, Division II schools came to get their transfer players. You know, if I had a kid that had grades and maybe he was 6'5", 230 out of high school, he comes to me, leaves at 280 in a year and a half, and he's walking and playing in the old Pac-8, Pac-10, Pac-12. Um, I got hundreds of stories of guys that developed at the junior college level, and that's where they came to get them. If they needed a transfer or they made a mistake on a guy out of high school. Well, now, if you look at the pecking order, Jacob, it's the whole landscape has switched with this ruling and the NIL deals and all the above. But I feel like, you know, it's the transfer portal. That's the first look for instant help. And then it's probably junior college. And then it's the high school player. And so I think the biggest, and it's helped us in recruiting, we're getting better quality players, is the developmental high school guy is available to us. You know, the Division I type guys aren't going to take a chance on it like they used to, or the walk-on programs, you know, that built Nebraska and K-State and you name it. Um, they're jumping right at that portal to get the instant success, knowing that the loyalty, you know, that's the whole thing that bothers me in this whole deal is um, I felt like once you committed, you're committed to that program for 4 to 5 years, graduate, and you're now an alum, and you can give back and all the above, and that's no longer there.
Yeah, no, those are great points. So going back to your JUCO years, um, has the tr well for first off, I'll ask you this: what is the primary sources of funding that you know of at junior colleges?
Well, and it depends on the level. We were you know, right now where I was at Glendale, that whole system dropped football, which was a shame because I could name many NFL players that came through it, and that was their chance to make a name for themselves and then move on. Um, we didn't have dorms in Arizona. The Maricopa County schools didn't, so we recruited locally. I recruited the west side of Phoenix, Glendale, and that's I think a big reason we were successful was those kids knew each other. They were rivals, and then we brought them together, and they became teammates and had a bond. You know, west side of Phoenix, we're gonna win the Maricopa deal, and then maybe play for a national championship if we're good enough. Well, and I had two walk-ons from out of state that I didn't recruit. They stepped through my door, and I said, "Sure, I'll give you a chance on my national title team." But some junior colleges, like the Kansas JUCOs, all they have dorms, and they recruit. full ride. You're going to get room, board, and tuition, and they're more business-like from a standpoint. They've got to put together a group that's going to win, and they've got to look at the scholarship dollar hard and how they're spending it. Whereas at Glendale back in the day, the highest we ever gave was $500 to a young man, which was big back then. School probably costs 800 to 1,000 for tuition, and then they had to buy their books and they had to find a place to stay. So a lot of our kids lived at home. They were Glendale kids. So the cost wasn't high. And then they had the opportunity to move on after 2 years, a year and a half, and pick their place. But they had plenty of places to pick because it was a hot recruiting ground for all levels, D3 and up. So it was a really good situation. But junior college vary. Like the Californians, some of them have dorms, some of them don't. But still, I think that niche is there for that kid that maybe didn't do well in school, out of high school, and or needs to develop and wasn't really recruited highly. I think the JUCO situation is good. Plus, it's from a cost standpoint, with the the rising costs in an education, you can go knock out 2 years and knock out your basic classes that everybody takes, and then see how you develop, and then how you get recruited, and there's a place for everybody, I believe, to play college football if there's a want to, and the ability to go to class and get a degree. So, but I just think it's with all these new rulings, it's sad to say, but I worry about the JUCO systems. And then on the other aspect, our kids going to start looking at a JUCO as a prep school. That was the thing. If you went to prep school, you didn't use a year of eligibility. You played a very odd schedule, and you got your grades right to where you could possibly get a scholarship or go to a junior college after that and then pursue your path. But right now, I hope I'm wrong, but it sounds like the junior college could be an avenue for a kid not to use some eligibility and play some ball and develop, which I think will water down the JUCO game. I'm worried.
Those are excellent points. And aside from, because like I agree, like there's a lot of coaches who say football overall is watered down because of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So like, how do you think this new JUCO rule could impact funding and money of junior colleges? Like, do you think they're going to need more scholarship spots if the demand for JUCO is higher? And do you think the demand for JUCO would be higher if this new rule stays intact?
I It depends on how far they push the new rule. So right now at our level, Division II, it doesn't affect. You know what I mean? When they go play junior college ball and come to our play, well, we haven't made a ruling. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
We're still in limbo at the NAI level. Um, but really, the ruling is based off a young man that went JUCO and then went Division I, and then they, from my understanding, then they could flip and get a year back. Um, so it's really at the infant stages of what everybody's going to do from an NAI, from an NCAA standpoint. I'm a firm believer. You go play junior college football, that's college football, and that should count towards your number of years you're going to play. I don't think we need a minor league system, to feed all the 4-year colleges, because it's going to hurt. How we're enrollment driven, and a lot of small private institutions are enrollment driven. And all of a sudden kids are just taking the JUCO path to avoid using eligibility, I think we're running down a tough stream or running upstream on something that could affect uh, universities and colleges and keeping the doors open.
Mm. So you think basically it could hurt junior colleges like abilities to stay open, like you could see
I
more
think it hurts.
Glendales.
Well, no, I think the 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 junior college system is pretty strong for the general student. Back in the day, yes, they probably relied on athletics more. They don't worry about that anymore. For instance, when I went to Glendale, we were probably 10,000 students, which is big. It's over 30 now. So the reason that league dropped, which I felt like it was the strongest league in the country um, at the time, was the president said we football, it doesn't matter. We're paying insurance, we're paying for equipment. So they were just looking at the costs, not what it was giving those kids an opportunity that they wouldn't have had to get an education beyond junior college. Right now, junior colleges are really 2-year certificate driven type institutions, or they're selling themselves as come get your undergrad basic courses, your English 101s, your college algebras, everything that you need to go to the 4-year, but it's at a cheaper price. So I don't think the junior colleges are going away from an institution standpoint, and that's what worries me. Um, what's going to happen to JUCO football? How's it going to be perceived?
Mm.
I think it's more of a perception right now.
Yeah, interesting. So like it's kind of too early to tell what the rule, like if it'll really help or hurt JUCOs,
Yeah, because I think,
basically.
I mean, ultimately they would love probably for the NCAA to come back and say, if you played junior college football, you get a year at the Division I, two, FCS, and three level. You know what I mean? You get a year back. So they would probably love that. Then they could sell the fact, hey, come play for us. It doesn't count towards your eligibility. You get a chance to be re-recruited, from that sense. So I think there's a lot coming that nobody knows.
Yeah.
The NIL has really thrown the NCAA for a loop because, in the day and not well, recent times, they were the ruling body. And if you cheated, you got caught. Here it is. Boom. Well, now it's the wild, wild west out there, and transferring doesn't matter anymore. Loyalty, uh, it's all about the dollar, which it wasn't.
So do you
And
think,
that,
oh, sorry.
excuse me,
Sorry, go
but
ahead.
that actually started at the NAI level.
Hmm.
The NIL did, you know,
Interesting.
as I was getting out and heading to Europe, that's when it really began. We were the first body that okayed it.
Hmm, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
And do you think that the transfer portal rule has deterred Division One schools from looking at JUCO?
yeah,
For sure.
100%.
Okay. And then additionally, um, regarding Division Two, I don't know if you're familiar with the player from Wisconsin. He sued, basically saying that he shouldn't lose the year of eligibility because he went to Division Two, and he he said because Pavia didn't lose eligibility that he shouldn't either, and the NCAA granted a preliminary injunction to give him an extra year of eligibility for playing Division Two. Now that hasn't applied to,
Now, is that a Division II kid that's now at Division I?
yeah,
Yeah. See, that's interesting. And that just tells me they don't know what direction they're going with this,
yeah.
but they don't want to get sued.
If that ruling took place, how do you think that that would affect your daily activities as a coach at the NIA level?
Well, yeah, now we look, but how many of our guys are actually going to go Division One? That's a small percentage. Now, how many think they are? Probably 90% with that new rule, and then they'll put their name out there in some way, and it as a program, you feel like your culture is disintegrating. You know, I'm still a believer. You got one foot out the door, you got both out. Go. And I've used that philosophy here, and I'm going to stick by it because it's hard enough to get a group of 100 young men to buy in to what you're doing. But if they've got the option to shop themselves out there in a free market, it's difficult, So they know, at least at my institution, if you're fishing and it comes to my attention, which it still does because schools are required to notify you, or Twitter. Twitter is one of the one of the easiest news outlets for a coach to find out what a kid's doing, or saying or putting out there. That tells me you're not all in here. Go, and I'm gonna go find guys that want to be here. So it's really made our profession tough as a culture, uh, program. I feel like I'm a little bit back in the junior college era where you flip your team every year. When you're a JUCO coach, that's going to happen. The guys want to know where they're headed, you know, and you're going to lose half your team every year, and you got to recreate a team. Um, and I feel like that's been the trickle down effect of the transfer portal to where you still have to redo your team every year, and you become younger. That fourth, fifth year senior is a dinosaur that you've had, that you've developed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it becomes tough. It really does. But you got to adapt. I'm probably one of those dudes that will fight it till I'm done. But I'm not dumb, and I'm gonna adapt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a great point because, like, I'm sure a lot of people, because I've interviewed a lot of JUCO coaches, and most of them agree with you. Um, like, my question is, would this JUCO ruling, because this is what I think, you can tell me if I'm wrong. If this
Mhm.
JUCO ruling stays intact, right, could that deter people from going to MAC schools, FCS schools, and Division II schools when they say, "Oh, I can go to JUCO without losing eligibility"? Like, assuming you're not
Yeah.
like a top 300. Like,
Yes. That's their new prep school. That's their new outlet that hey, I'm gonna go prove myself, and if I don't, I can always shop myself back to the schools that were originally recruiting me. But I have this new place to go and not worry about losing a year of eligibility. And yeah, there's no doubt. And I think if you ask those JUCO coaches, and if they're honest with you, they're struggling to place their players. That was my job as a JUCO coach. I had to recruit and replace and place guys. And I felt as strong that every one of my guys was going to get placed somewhere in a scholarship as I did as recruiting them. So you're doing both year round. And I think they're probably, if they're honest with you, struggling to place guys. The guy that used to go to the MAC is now going Division II or lower. The guaranteed qualifier that was because he's 6'5", 260, and we couldn't coach him well enough, but they were going to. They would take him because he was a qualifier out of high school, and they would develop him. after 3 semesters, he's gone out of your JUCO program. And he's sitting at the Pac-12. Is he ready to be a Pac-12 guy? Who knows? But they would take a shot at him because they could get him there in the spring, um, and have a spring with him. So yeah, I think it's thrown that huge wrinkle where it's made the junior college coaching job tougher. Because when you recruit a junior college kid, you're telling them, we're going to develop you. You're going to get an associate's degree if you need one, and then we're going to place you. And that placing part is a lot tougher.
With the new JUCO ruling or with the transfer portal or
With
both,
the
you think?
transfer portal,
Okay.
I think it's made it tougher. The colleges are looking first at the portal, then the JUCO.
And do you think that could change with the new JUCO ruling? Because if a lot of players are
Could.
going JUCO, do you think JUCO could be the new option that they look at even before the transfer portal? Or you don't really think that that's going to be the case?
The I think the transfer portal gives that coach comfort that they have some experience, and could be a junior or senior, a 1 year only guy. I think that's where they would look first and then go junior college, um, to get that fix. The old adage was, if you're at no matter where you're at, FCS, the old 1AA, Division 1, the reason you're going to recruit a junior college guy is you made a mistake in your recruiting process, or you had a devastating injury, or you didn't have depth. So if you're an offensive line coach and you're hurting for depth, you scholarship a guy, he's not going to start for you, but he provides depth for you.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And going back to like the JUCO ruling, do you think it's possible that like the Division 1 schools are going to be like in cahoots with them saying, let's say we have an offensive lineman that, is young, but he needs developing.
Yeah,
And like they could
we're going to
say,
place him.
yeah, they'll place them at a JUCO and say like, hey, we like you as an offensive line coach. We want you to develop him for 2 years, and then we come back as a freshman.
Yep, no doubt. And that happened back in the day. You'd have a school call you and say, "Hey, I got a guy, can't get him in. We want to place him at your place, but you got to help us, coach. You got to tell all the other recruiters he's going back to us." You had verbal agreements, and you didn't want to break those agreements because then they would go back and not recruit your JUCO for other positions, other kids down the road. So there was a good relationship between Division 1 and JUCO coaches, and I'm sure it still happens for sure. Um, those guys want you at the JUCO. They don't want you to leave because they formed that solid relationship, and they want you to stay there for years while they're at their certain school. So yeah, that part of it's still there. It's just I think the recruiting aspect has shifted with the open Wild West transfer portal.
Very interesting. And then adding on to that, do you think that JUCOs may need collectives and may get have more players potentially signing NIL deals because of
Good.
that ruling?
Yeah, I would sure look, if I was in a JUCO situation, and I'd look at it that way. If you're able to do that and get, say Auburn decides so and so JUCOs their source, give them some funding to place their kids there, and then they're the first choice when they want to bring that kid to wherever, to the school that formed that collective. Yeah, I think until the NCAA gets hard headed, and do they have the power to do it anymore? I don't know. When you got athletes suing the company and winning, it starts to get scary.
Yeah, because they're
Are
kind of in
we?
a tough position
Yeah,
with that.
very
Yeah.
tough. Whereas in the past, when I grew up in my first 20 something years of college coaching or 30 years of college coaching. They were the ruling body. You didn't mess with them. Now, of course, there's people that try to get around it and whatever, but if they came down on you, it was trouble. I'm not sure that power is there right now. They've kind of lost that edge. It's more of a business. It's more of yeah, you guys, we're going to put this umbrella around you, and you guys figure out how you're going to work it. We're going to make the money off revenue off attendance.
So it's basically like players have all the powers, what you're
Yeah,
saying, right? Yeah.
yeah, and and it's and schools. So and so school can raise this amount of money. They're going to pay their players this amount of money from number 1 to 110 or whatever the roster is, and the old walk on is no longer a walk on. If you hear a kid has an offer to walk on at a Division I school, he's getting paid, through the collective, whatever that amount is, but it's still probably taking a big chunk of they're paying for school, so they're the old scholarship guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no longer that true walk on.
Yeah, there's been a lot of good walk-ons who have played in the NFL too.
Oh, think
I
about it. You
yeah.
could, I mean, you all pro team for sure. Especially when K-State, Nebraska, and all those had those walk-on freshman teams, and they pride themselves on getting those kids and develop them. Uh, so that, yeah, it's interesting. It's and that's another fact. You got a kid that might not be being recruited by a Division I, but their parents went there, and they're an in-state guy and they want to be there and they're willing to pay. That opportunity's not there anymore because the school's got to pay him if he makes the roster.
Mm. And could coaches basically like force players to enter the portal? Because like
Yeah,
that's what it's
yeah.
also crazy.
Well,
Like
and
you're
I
not
think
going to
there's
play
a
here.
Jacob. I don't know the whole ins and outs, but there's a new ruling where they're cutting rosters, and so the big roster teams are having to cut their own right now, and to get to a certain roster amount, I'm not sure what it is, but they can't take walk-ons. They can't take a walk-on and pay them because they're having to get rid of their own guys. So
Mm.
this year is really, I think, a turning point in where we're headed in college football or athletics.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. And if this Division Two ruling goes into tact, how
Yeah.
do you think that's like, for example, how could that affect high schoolers? Because you have the JUCO ruling, you'd have the Division Two ruling, and you'd have the transfer portal. Would that like make it impossible for high schoolers to get recruited, you think?
Yeah, unless you're a 4-star or better, you know. Um, yeah, it even gets interesting at our level. How do they look at the NAI? Are we a renegade separate entity? Um, are we going to become that JUCO that doesn't count towards eligibility if they want to transfer to the NCAA? I don't know. And that's what scares me. I'll tell you that my 4 or 5 best players, put themselves out there in a portal situation. Did they improve? I don't think so, but they got re-recruited. Um, and once they did it, they were gone in my mind. And I told them that, and I congratulated them, on if they got something or not. But I think they also there was a rude awakening for them on how hard it was, with the portal, and then you got the NAI pseudo portal, and then you got the D2 transfer portal, whatever they want to call it. But there was a lot of guys out there. Um, So it was difficult, and are you going to get the same scholarship amount as compared to what the tuition, room, and board are? And then you here's the old thing. Then you got to go into that new team and reestablish your whole self. And that new team doesn't like you. The coaches do, but there's a dude that was sitting there for 3 years thinking, hey, it's my chance to play. And you bring in a guy in the same position, same age, and you're bringing him in for a reason. And then that dude that was at that school and sitting there working his tail off for 3 years and developing has 50 friends on the team. And all of a sudden they're bringing in a dude to take his spot. And that's hard to mesh in a culture. So I'm real leery how I approach transfers, and always have been, even though I grew up JUCO, um, because there's a reason you're getting recruited out of a junior college, and that's to come take a guy's spot.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And that kid who sat there for 3 years, who's probably very upset, he probably has to transfer now because he sat there for 3 years and it might be his last year and he doesn't have a chance, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. So it's a dynamic that's always been there, but now it's there with the portal, with the D2 and up transfer, with the junior college transfer, and then the old prep school transfer is still there. So it's yeah, it's there's a lot of, it's easier to recruit, but like I said, I'm a big believer in culture and in a program and development, and it really makes it difficult.
so do you think it's more difficult to discipline your players due to that new transfer portal and JUCO rule, like as a coach, like because they could just leave if you get on them at practice,
Yeah,
for example?
yeah, it's easy, right? It's easy when things get hard. I'm gonna take off, and I got 1,000 opportunities in my mind. The kid's saying, "Hey, I got 1,000 opportunities. Somebody will want me. I'm a good player." Um, yeah, it is. It's a new era. I've got to get used to it, but I'm sticking to my guns and trying to do it the old school way and create a culture around our program that they don't want to leave. Because I still get upset. Back in the day, if I lose one kid, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? That's not the case anymore. They'll tell you that they love you as they walk out the door. Coach, I love you, bud, and I'll always be a Swede, but you know, and it's good to hear, but it doesn't help the situation. And it's like job hunting. It's like, you get into that entry level job. I feel like we're an entry level job, and they're going to get experience, and then that's how it feels when they leave. Like,
So,
thanks, but no thanks. We're going to go do this. And
so
as a player, I've had this experience. It's hard to establish yourself and feel a part of something if you're always looking elsewhere. You know what I mean? And that was the beauty when I came here 39, I think it's 39 years ago as a player. Coach Kessinger was here, established program, and I jumped into it. I didn't feel like I just want to be accepted. And we won some championships, and it was an awesome experience. And I felt like I was a part of something. I'm an alum now, and I'm back. I'm not sure that I think that's going away,
hmm.
you know, uh, for a lot of kids.
And it's harder on the kids too because the grass isn't always greener on the other
Oh,
side, right? Because
right.
yeah,
Like I
because then they
feel like,
don't get somewhere and then they're kind
yeah.
of like stuck in the portal.
Well, I've had it here. A couple dudes want it back, and I said no, nope. We moved on,
Yeah, because
made
like it,
adjustments, and then you look at your team. Like, what are they going to think? I always, when I make a decision, what is the perception? I'm saying this, but am I doing it? And what are my kids, like your own kids? What are they perceiving? You know, if it's a guy that quit, he quit, and now he wants back because he didn't get what he wanted. You know what I mean? It's yeah, me as a coach, I can be selfish and go, he's a good player, I want it back. But what is his teammates thinking? You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah, and it's like he could get away with anything. It's like you
Yes,
have to treat every player differently. It's like if you're letting him get away with whatever he wants, but then maybe someone who's not quite as good but still works hard
right.
doesn't get the same treatment, then it's like tough for you as a coach because then you could lose the locker room that way, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You gotta be careful.
Yeah.
And I tell our guys, that everybody's got a different situation. So they know I discipline each case. Because everybody comes from a different background, a different story, um, but when it becomes a team concept, and I verbally have said it, 1 foot out the door, you're out the door. Just go. I'll help you on the way out, and no hard feelings. You got to kind of stick by it when it happens.
Yeah. Because like obviously you do it to one, you have to do it to like
Yeah.
all, right? Because otherwise like you could lose the locker room,
Yep.
I would
Yep.
assume. And going back to this Division 2 rule, if this happens, because you know how Division 2 is part of the NCAA
Yeah.
and junior college is not part of the NCAA?
Or we aren't either. NAI.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why we're kind of in that. The NAI is waiting for all this to sort itself out before they decide what we are.
Mm.
Or from that standpoint, what's the ruling? Do our years count? Um, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because somebody else could sue saying he's not
Yeah,
part of the NCAA, his years count.
yeah,
So I'm not part of the NCAA, so my years shouldn't count either, right? Like that
yeah,
would be like what someone would sue for. And adding on to that, if they do allow the Division 2 rule, the Division 2 that's part of the NCAA, to rule and to allow those guys to not lose eligibility, what would stop? And I'm just curious if you think this is possible. Is it possible that a MAC school can sue, an HBCU school can sue, or some FCS, lower FCS school could sue saying, hey, they're part of the NCAA and they're not losing eligibility. And we're
yeah.
not getting players because they're going to Division 2 because they're not losing eligibility. So
Right.
we should have the same, and it could get to the
Yeah.
point where like any non, you think that's possible, where like any non-power four school could try to sue for that if they
Good.
granted this Division 2?
Yeah. I think it's wide open right now. And that's where I think there needs to be a governing body that comes down, and whether, who does it go to the Supreme Court? Who? I don't know. But
Yeah.
right now, it's a can of worms that has been opened, and there needs to be closure and
Yeah.
rules,
And the
or
question
else.
is, can you close it at the end of the day? It seems like it's getting more and more difficult the
Yeah,
further down you go, right?
right. So, if I was a young coach, I'd be a little leery. I'm old enough. I'm pretty set in my ways, and I feel like we can build something here that I'm not going to get too affected by everything. And I have an answer, hopefully, if five guys leave, I've developed the guys we have enough not to give, you know what I mean, to
Yeah.
to to go crazy. But that's where I feel comfortable, and in the purity of the level we're at, um, and the reason kids are here. Uh, but that being said, we are a non-entity. We aren't the NCAA, so who knows? you
Yeah.
know where we're going as a a by NAI. What are we? What are we going to stand for from that standpoint? We'll see.
Yeah, no,
I
that's a
like it.
great point. And like
Yeah,
back to that, do you think NAIAs, do they have NIL? But like, are any
yeah.
players getting paid NIL in the
Oh
NAIA
yeah,
level?
yeah. It started it. this level.
Oh
But
yeah, that's
nobody
right.
was going to pursue it at that time because, how are we paying our guys? And then all of a sudden they might go, the NCAA is going to look at us like, what are you guys doing down there? You're already recognized as kind of renegade because you own set of rules.
Yeah,
But we do some things. I've started one here through a group.
a
Um,
collective.
yeah, where the kids and it's more where they if apparel type, if somebody's gonna put their name on it, they're going to get a piece of it
Okay.
type stuff. And it's a recruiting tool too. I think it helps, but it helps the kids knowing they've got
Yeah.
a resource possibly to help them. With pocket change, we're not we're
Yeah.
not talking big, but it's we're able to do it. It's loud, and as long as it's not a distraction and takes too many hours to accomplish, and you got people that are willing to help, yeah, and I think that'll always be there as long as the ruling's there.
Yeah, and that's also a great point because you know how like NIL has like your name, image, and
Yeah,
likeness, right? And then also the collectives.
yeah,
So from what I'm understanding from what you're saying, your players are getting paid off like the actual name, image, and likeness.
yes,
They get
yes. The
sponsored by a shoe,
original reason it was put in place.
which was that's what it was meant to be. I think the collectives was kind of like an unintended, if I'm not mistaken, an unintended consequence of the
Yes,
ruling. Yeah.
yes, yeah. You imagine, I mean, I couldn't imagine the levels of the collectives and the pressure because the collectives are now your recruiting pool, your money pool. And back in the day, it was school to school, and when the NCAA uh, governed it, you had this amount of 85 scholarship. You had 60, FCS. You have 40. If you get there, if you can raise the money at the Division II level, you had 36. I was at a Division II school that we weren't, our league mandated that we could only go to 24, where the rest of the leagues had 36 if they were able to raise it. But that was my first experience in fundraising for scholarships. And we only got to 13. So
Wow.
we were competitive in our own league. But if we ever went to the national playoffs, we are going to get our butts beat because of scholarships, at the Division II level. And so that was my first experience. And then, the NAI is different. You set your own school to school scholarship limit based off percentages, how the school's going to stay alive and make money. And so you have almost unlimited money. You don't have to go raise any if you don't want to. It's out of endowment and whatever, but you have to keep doors open. So you gotta be an accountant, with the school and how you're going to scholarship kids. So I enjoy it. There's not that pressure to go raise uh, your scholarships as there was at some Division IIs. But I can't imagine the Division I level has become how much money can you raise? Whether it be basketball, football, you name it. Um, Around the scholarship they're already getting, which is usually tuition, room and board, and stipend money for necessities. So, yeah, it'd be really hard as a head football coach to keep your arms around it all. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's
Yeah.
almost like the agents are out there, and that's another thing.
The street agents. Yeah.
Kids have agents now. You've seen this. Coaches are now hiring GMs and personnel people to deal with the portal and to deal with the NIL and the ass because the head coach cannot and will not and doesn't have, if he's doing a good job, he has no time to do all that.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
full-time job, just dealing with
for
contracts. I mean, there's
yeah,
lawyers and agents who get paid millions of dollars
yeah,
to do that. So like there's no way a head coach is gonna have
no,
time.
no,
So yeah.
it'd be unreal to think about, and it's early, and who knows where it's headed.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. So this will be the last thing. Thank you so much for your time
Yeah,
again. I much appreciate it. Do you think that the JUCO rule could that get NAIA schools more money? Could that increase fundings, assuming that the demand for NAIA would be higher? And could that increase scholarship opportunities? Because like more people want to go NAIA because they don't lose eligibility. Will they increase scholarships and get more money? I guess is my question.
I think most NAI schools are private. Um, and I think it's enrollment based and it's endowment based. I think that'd be each institution and how they want to approach it, because there's people out there with huge, huge endowments that they could work it to where they entice the better athlete to come to their place to play and then, eventually leave, which be tough. I don't want to be at a 4-year school and be known as a junior college. When I say junior college, 2 years and out, maybe a year and out.
Yeah, so you
Um,
think that Power Four or Division One in general is basically like JUCO? Because I was interviewing an HBCU coach, and he basically told me with the transfer portal, HBCUs were almost the new JUCOs
yeah,
because they'd have a
that's how
good
you,
player for 1 year. Their HBCU All American
yeah,
would leave and go to Power Five. Or
they're gonna
yeah,
grab an agent, and that agent's gonna put the feelers out for him without him even doing anything, and then they're going to snag him. Yeah, and I mean, I dealt with it at our level. I had a really good receiver here, um, can fly, and he got picked up. Um, and it was, and I love the kid, and he told me out the door he loved me, but you know, money talks,
yeah,
and
yeah.
so it's hard. It's I don't even want to think about it.
Well,
I
I don't want to put too much pressure on you. I'm sorry. This is
No, 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 because I've dealt with it. I mean, we've already experienced that, and believe it or not, there's an NAIA portal out there that somebody put together, like a Twitter page, and it's got all these dudes on it. Looking,
wow.
and coaches know where it is, and they're going and looking and grabbing guys off that. So it's already started. You know, but I get it. It's not something that's not how I grew up. And I'm a big loyal guy. And you join a program, uh, if you join a JUCO, you're there year and a half, 2 years. You're a part of that. You do well. You work your tail off. You're going to get rewarded. You now join that next team. Now that's your team. That's where you're going to graduate from. You're an alum. You give back if you can. You show up. You come back. See coach. All that's what I'm about. And you're losing that with all the transfer stuff.
Yeah. And it also, I'm assuming it'd make it harder for you to coach, and it puts like it makes it harder for you to guide players because
Yeah,
it's hard for an 18-year-old to make like a sound decision, because like when you're 18, you don't have a lot of life experience
right.
and you kind of make like more emotional based decisions generally as opposed to logic based.
Yeah,
And it could, it probably makes it more difficult for coaches like you to guide these young kids into the right
yeah.
direction in their life. So,
Well, and there's 100 different backgrounds they're coming from. And, they might want to be here, but their parents are pressuring them financially to get the best offer.
and
You
the
know, they're,
agents. Yeah.
they're writing a check to our school, and all of a sudden, hey, man, this is getting tough. Why don't you put yourself out there and look for the best financial opportunity to help us out? And kids are feeling that pressure. Like, I got to do what's right for my family, and that's, what are you going to say? So it's just these are difficult times for scholarship athletes and school in general. It's expensive to go to college, and it's just been rising and rising. So I get that aspect.
No, that's a great point. Like, I respect that you like stick to your guns and you say, I'm going to coach my way no matter what. Like, I respect that kind of loyalty because I've been taught, like, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, like, I really respect your loyalty and I really respect you as like a coach and like what you've accomplished winning a championship at the NAIA level. Or was it JUCO or NAIA? I can't even remember.
Well, I won a national at the JUCO level,
JUCO
and then I played for one
in the NAIA.
in the NAI in 16. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, no, that's hard to do. I mean, winning at those levels is very, very hard. So,
yeah,
especially now, I can't even
right.
imagine now. So, like, thank you so much for your time, coach, and good luck. I hope you have a great season in, this upcoming season, and I hope the off season goes well for you.
You bet. Appreciate you, Jacob. Thank you.
Thank you, and have a great rest of your
Okay,
day.
buddy. Yep. Bye bye.
Bye.